Hola. I'm still waiting to go to that movie with The Rock. Is it Moana? Yes. At least we have internet. Internet was out for hours this morning. In fact, I couldn't even have one of my classes. And that's what happens when you depend on the internet to do your classes. Hi, everyone. Because we had a bad storm in the middle of the night. You know, you wake up and then you you start scrolling through your phone. Hola, HBS5, ¿cómo estás? And then that's how you learn that, oh, we had a bad storm. And Robin, ¿cómo estás? You know, we've been having for the rainy season, which we are in rainy season, we've been having some storms overnight. You know, I remember when I was in Florida one year, we had what they called the no name storm. We woke up and trees were down, roofs and stuff, and we're like, whoo, there was no warning, no meteorologist predicted that was a no name storm. So um, I see that we've been having some of those here in Panama during the rainy season. Yes. Awesome. Awesome. I'm glad. Well, you know, I try to share what I know with you, what I have. The one thing when I do consultation, people ask me that I'm usually not really unsure, but it's like I recommend this, but not all the time. And because some things have changed here in Panama, you know, when I first came to Panama 3 years ago, it was a given that everybody suggested that you work with a realtor. And then now, because they have had so much business, the realtors are not talking to you unless you're ready to, right? Before, if you said, you know what, I'm here, I'm looking just to see, they're like, we're not going to waste our time with you, right? But if you say, they ask you what's your timeline, when do you expect to move in? And you say 6 months, no can do. If you say I'm looking to rent within 30 days, it's a go. So things have changed. There are, just like there are so many people now doing relocation tours. You know, there are people doing tours I didn't even know were doing tours. And people ask me, do you do tours? No, I don't. And I will not be doing that. But the two or three, is it two? You know, Charlotte does the cultural one that is focused on the contribution of African Americans in Panamanian to Panamanian culture, and then you have Jackie, who's kind of the pioneer of those uh, relocation tours, and she's still a powerhouse, you know, in terms of her knowledge and breadth of information that she has. But Charlotte has been doing it for 5 years now, and she's holding her own. And of course, Jackie has been doing it for like 11, 12 years. So, you know, they have their own buses and they hire people. She doesn't run the tours anymore. She has staff. You know, that's a sign that you're doing something good. But anyway, so that's what we're dealing with here with in Panama. It's the rainy season. When the rainy season started in May, it didn't rain for like 3 weeks, and then the rain started every day. Like right now, besides last night, it hadn't rained in a few days. And if we're going to have a storm at 3 o'clock in the morning, I think it's a good time to have a storm versus in the afternoon, which used to be the typical afternoon showers, which been keeping us. I've been wanting to take a boat tour, but we're like, we don't want to be in the middle of the ocean, when we're having a storm. I know I don't. And of course, the ladies were like, yeah, I appreciate that, but, then we're missing out. Do you go to the beach when it's raining? Right? So it kind of dampens, and that's why people always ask what time of the year is best to come to Panama. And of course, the dry season is called high season for a reason, because people want to reduce the likelihood that they won't be able to go on a tour to go whale watching. Apparently, that's the season. You go deep into the ocean and you sit on the boat and then you watch the whales come, which is really a beautiful thing to do. I did that in Hawaii, but I don't want to be on a boat in the middle of the ocean because a few times, emergency services here called Cineproc had to go rescue some people whose boats were capsizing, and I'm like, oh no, I don't need to see whales that bad. I like to stay on solid ground. Although, if a hurricane, I mean, earthquake comes, after what's happened in Venezuela, I look around Panama City and I'm like, God forbid anything like that should happen here. It won't be pretty. It won't be pretty because we have so many high rises. And this building, I think, was built in like early 2000s, where they already had implemented some safety features for the building to be able to withstand. But who wants to be in a building when it's shaking like that? That's crazy. But we have a lot of older buildings in this city. Lots of. Hola Maria. Happy 4th. Thank you. You know what? When I woke up this morning, I woke up, it was like 7:45. I was thinking, I'll go to the meat market because I was thinking of getting a chicken and making some soup for someone. Then I said, because usually when I want to leave my house, I want to leave like at 6:30 early so that I don't get caught in the heat. But so I didn't go. And but the weather was so nice. It was cool. And so I've had the doors open, both doors. I only have a door to my bedroom and a door to the living room. And then after that, everything is kind of enclosed like in an L. So I've had the windows open, the doors, sliding doors open, and I love that. I love fresh air. And of course, I have the fan going. I don't use my AC a lot, only at night. I cool the room before I get in the bed. And then if I wake up to go to the restroom, sometimes, those hormones start acting up. You could be fine. The moment my eyes open, it's like, you gotta. And then so I sleep with the remote, a little small remote next to me, like, because, we have those wall units in the bedrooms. Yeah. So that's how I control my energy bills. That in the no, in the rainy season when it was really warm and humid, 40 something a month. That's not bad. And in the dry season, my bill was like 27. So it depends on how much you use. And my central has been broken since over a couple of years. And I told the owner, I said, I don't like it that cold, so don't worry about it. So she has not done anything to it. I'm like, which is fine. Because there is no energy saving kind of, you know, units here. It is what it is. But anyway, so I know Maria suggested that, if you ladies have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. No, she did not keep the electricity. She asked if the owner kept the electricity in her name. Listen, girl, I have heard so many stories, too many stories of people being caught with when they cut off the electric because the owner didn't pay it, or they're having like a $500 bill and you don't know what's happening. And really, when that happens to you, you have no recourse. You really don't know what's causing it. And then you go to the office and they look at you and say, well, what do you want us to do? We're not going to investigate. First of all, if we're going to shut off your electric, we don't send you a reminder saying, oh, pending whatever your this account is. Mm-mm. If you don't pay 3 months, it's like, whoop, there's a date. It just shuts off automatically. So when I came here 3 years ago, I told the owner, because the owner here has 4 units in my building. So, and then the unit I'm in was in her daughter's name, who's very young. And I said, no, I don't want to leave it in her name because then I don't get my jubilado discount, 25% off. So she drove me in her car to Naturgy, and then we changed it over. And I presented my ID, my e-cedula. They put it in the system. They're supposed to give you 25% off. And she was so cute. The very first bill, she's like, Maggie, check your bill. Did you get your discount? And I looked, they had not given me the 25% off. So I took myself back to the place and I said, this is the my receipt that should have been applied. And then oh, then we got to do it over. So I had to do another application, and the following month I got my discount. So all my bills for electric, you get 25% off. Not just us, anybody, national citizens, if they have that card, uh, jubilado, yeah, that means they're retired. And retirement age here is 55 for women and 60 for guys. So they get it earlier than we used to. Yeah, I've had no issues with my electric. And also, there's a sister in my building. Her electric got cut off twice because the owner is not local. They usually hire, like a management company, like I do for my home. And people are negligent. They don't pay it, or they forget, or whatever. And guess who gets to pay? To imagine in this weather and it's so hot and humid, and then you wake up and there's no electric. You're losing stuff in your fridge, and it's just not a pleasant experience. So I encourage everybody to have that changed over. But some owners do not want to do that because people are moving through their units, every year. They don't want to have the responsibility of going back, changing over, changing the names, right? So that's the reason all of them don't want to do it. Oh, did you like the one about buying versus renting? Yeah, I thought I would just give my thought process as to how I came up with the decision. When you first come, I know people who come on a tour, on a scouting trip. They go visit some apartments and they go, "Oh my God!" Listen, first of all, if you are from a place like, I don't know, maybe you're from New York City or some place where you're not used to seeing, ocean front, top to ceiling glass doors and breeze and everything. It's easy for you to get awed by, oh my God, I want this, I want that. And unfortunately, a lot of the tours will do that to you, right? They show you the best, and you go to the beach and you open your window, you're looking at the ocean, and you say, I'm ready to sign. And that's why I'm like, don't do it, wait, right? So some people are ready to sign after one visit. And even I was telling y'all that Aisha, who is a young girl here, I mean, she's young, she's 50 something, but to me, she's young. She interviewed a woman who had bought property sight unseen, which is something we don't recommend. But people can give you recommendations. you're going to do what you want. As I said, I've had people tell me, why are you telling people not to buy? You just don't want us to buy property. And I'm like, why would I not want you to buy property? I don't have a stake in the game. There is nothing. I don't get a commission. I'm just giving you my opinion. What you do with the information is up to you. So, and some people, even after they've been here, they say, nope, we want to buy, we want to buy. In fact, there's a couple the other day, they posted, after they've been here a few months, but then they locked into a unit in a beach area, and they said, we just signed our condo. And I'm like, bravo. Buying in Panama for somebody my age, the best thing that they want to do is cash, right? It's not easy for you to get a mortgage, even though I hear that you can. But I can't imagine anybody nearing 70 going and sign for a mortgage for how many years? 10? You don't know how long you're going to live, and we're kind of on our way out. I don't understand that. But again, that's me. So when I looked at a couple of units 2 years ago with some sisters, in our mind, it was going to be a cash deal, right? That's what the developers are looking for. But for the reason that I mentioned in the video, you take $200,000 of your hard earned money and you just sign it over to someone. I mean, that would give me chills because that's a lot of money, first of all. And I'm like, how long am I going to live? I don't know. I might live to be 100. I might live 2 years. I might live 5 years. I don't know. So when I do the math, it doesn't compute very well for me that it's a good deal, right? If I'm paying $1,200 a month for a unit, that's about $24,000, a year. And if I live to be 10 years, that's $240,000. Yeah, it may sound like a lot of money, but for me to buy a unit and then be responsible for the maintenance, and some things I think about, new construction, if something is wrong with it, you don't know what you're going to go through to have them fix it. And they always have add-ons. And I don't know. As I said, I just don't want the responsibility of maintaining a unit, be responsible for repairs, insurance. And then when I do go, I know my children are not going to want to come here to live in that unit. Now, if I buy in the city, which is very unlikely because everything is priced really high here now, they could get it after it goes to the courts and everything. As I said, this is the law here that whatever property you have, it's gonna have to have the stamp from the courts for you to have access to it. My child, with the paperwork saying, with my will that she is my true, representative or survivor or whatever, and that's gonna drag. This is Panama, mañana, so nothing moves fast. So if they are savvy enough to figure out the system, if they're not, they're gonna have to hire an attorney. The attorney probably gonna have to be a Panamanian attorney, and you paying them for their services, and then they might want to use it as an Airbnb. Not every unit allows you to use your unit for Airbnb, right? So you say, okay, if I can do that, let me hire a property manager. Well, you're paying the property manager. You don't know, you know, who's going to be renting your place. And, I know the kind of renter that I am, but I know there are some renters who are not very good people. They'll destroy your place and you're always going to have to fix it. And I just don't want to deal with all that. And that's why I share with you my reasons. That young lady who looks to be much younger, you're in your 40s, you're looking at it as an investment, it's probably a good deal because things are appreciating here in Panama, right? But I just did not want to get in that particular business model. That's just not for me right now. If I were 20 years younger, probably. probably. Is each apartment responsible for their own electricity or is it attached to the building? In the city itself, usually it's separate. Even if it's in the owner's name, you paying for it. There's a sister who said, oh, she preferred the owner keeps it in her name and then they just sent her. That's how I had it when I had my first apartment in El Carmen because it was a 6-month deal. I was on my way to South Africa, if you recall. Then I knew it was going to be 6 months. First of all, she made me pay a little more because it wasn't a 12-month lease. And she was really good. She would send me the bill, email me a screenshot of whatever it is. And I just made a bank transfer from my account to her account. And then she always sent me another note that says, pagado, paid. And then I put it in find my record. That works seamlessly. But every renter is responsible for the electric. Water, we never have to pay for water. So electric, your cable, uh, well, nobody has landlines here. Your cell phone. Those are your mostly regular bills that you're gonna have. But yes, but you know what? If you go outside of Panama City to a place like David or Boquete, Outer Boquete, other places in the interior, and you're gonna rent a casita, a small home, a lot of time it comes as a one price with everything included, including your electric. Sometimes they throw in cable, internet, and of course you can negotiate a lot better on a unit that is not in the city. The city is becoming, it's always been kind of prime, but now because of the volume of people, the owners are playing hardball. Um, they don't, what do they call that? Negotiate anymore. And a lot of people who think, they've been thinking like the way it used to be, where we used to tell you everything is negotiable. I don't say that anymore because it is not so. Supply and demand, right? So people have lost apartments. If the owner said, because things are going up, the price, the monthly prices, and they'll say, this unit is $1,800 a month. And then you watch my videos before that said you can negotiate, and you say, well, how about 1,500? That's the last you're gonna hear from them. They don't even respond because they're like, we have 10 people lined up to take that apartment. They don't play that anymore. All right. But if you outside of Panama City, certainly you can negotiate because it's better to lose $50 a month, $100 a month, and have somebody sign a year lease. It's just business, right? Yeah, you could have it covered, but not in the city. No, ma'am. And then the consumption, the prices, I mean, sometimes it's within your control, sometimes it's not. I remember when I was in Florida, because we bought electric from another state and they play with those numbers, all the time. So your bill could go up 1 month and go down 1 month, and you didn't have any control over it. But here, people had gotten large bills. There's a sister here who said she had a friend who was in a unit in my building and kept getting high electric bill, 300, 400 for no reason. Had nothing to do with her consumption, how much she uses the AC. So she ended up leaving and moving to another building because sometimes you can figure it out and they're not going to tell you why. And if you switch the account from the owners to you, if the owner had some outstanding bills, it's going to pass on to you. Unless when you go change it, you say, I want to see a zero balance, right? To make sure that you're starting off your account clean. Not to the building. Hola, matching birthday for happiness. Oh, look at that. I have a birthday coming up. When's my birthday? Is it Thursday or Wednesday? I think Thursday. Um, what was I gonna say also about the building? Oh yeah, that most of the units are individually owned. So it's not like a corporation, the building is a corporation and they own the building. People, the owners, individual, it's like a condo association, right? Individual owners own the units. And what we are seeing, I don't think it's new, The owners, a lot of them don't live here, unlike my landlord who lives here. They have these units as investment properties. So because the market has appreciated over the last 3 years or so, let's say you bought a unit for 175 and now it appraises at 225. You go ahead and sell, which is what I should have done with my house over there. So I did not sell when the market was hot. And then it cools down, the property value goes down and you're stuck with it. But the way it is here, some of the owners are seizing the opportunity to sell their assets, the units. So you as the renter, the owner says, well, you know what? I have sold, I have somebody buying the unit, right? And there is a law here in Panama that says, I think I made a copy of it. One attorney sent it to us that even though you sign a 12-month lease, some sisters have signed like 3-year leases, right? And then it will spell out in the lease how much of what do you call that? I don't say a warning. You tell them when you want to leave. It could be a 60-day, what do we call that? 60-day um, notification, I guess, to say, that you are going to leave, right? But the law says, and some landlords had been messing with some of us. The law said that even though you have the lease, as long as each party gives 30-day notice, they can get out of the agreement. So if the owner gives you 30 days and says, I've sold the apartment, you don't have any recourse, you have to leave. Okay? So that's happened to some sisters. We have a sister in this building who had to go because of that. But sometimes, if the building is sold to another entity and they consider it another investment property, they may seamlessly continue. You may have to sign another lease because now you have new owners. You see what I'm saying? So it could go either way. Could be a business decision. There might be some circumstances, somebody dies, or who knows. But you have the 30 days, and you have the same thing for you as a renter. If you say, well, I don't like it, you're not a good landlord, things have broken down, you didn't fix it, I'm giving you a writing notice that I'm leaving in 30 days. You can do that lawfully, but some landlords saying, oh, she's new, she doesn't know the law, we're going to keep your deposit. And some people have lost their deposit that way. That's when you call your lawyer and you're like, is this right? As long as you've been a good tenant and you have abided by all the things in that lease. You've done the cleaning, you've done the maintenance, because sometimes you have to maintain, like the AC and other thing. Make sure, that's why I say, have the attorney read your lease so you very clear on what your responsibilities are. Because if you miss one thing, they may say, oh, well, you didn't do that, therefore I'm keeping your deposit. They're doing that. Why do some expats have high electric bill? We are in the city, first of all. Of course, the price per kilowatts is higher than it is in the mountains or in the other areas. So a lot of people are hot-blooded, right? They like to have things cool. They have the central AC running 24/7. I guarantee you, if I had to have my electric, when I first got here, I was paying like 150 when my central was running. Now that the central is out of commission, and I'm like, oh, I don't need it. I just use the one in the bedroom. I have 2 bedrooms, so I only have 2 units. So I don't really have AC in my living area. But if I turn on both of the ones in the room, it cools off. And then a lot of us have fans. Now you see, I got my fan, stand-up fan, or you could have your fan in the bedroom. So we'll do that to kind of lower the price. So consumption could be a problem. But as I said before, some people have unexplained high bills, and the department that manages that is not going to go out of their way to find out. Maybe there's something, maybe the meter is wrong or whatever, to fix it for you. So sometimes people just jump ship and they leave, right? But what I know for sure, consumption is one of the main reasons. Um, and then if something is wrong, of course, you might have not a handyman, a technician check, make sure that everything is okay. Make sure you do the maintenance. You know, they have like every 6 months, I'm supposed to do a cleanup of the units, make sure all that's done. And once you do all these maintenance, preventative stuff, if the bills keep staying high, then you don't know, and you know your consumption is not high, then that's when people jump ship. So we don't understand why. But the two people that I know have had high bills, one has moved, the other one said she just paid it because it probably was the previous owner or whoever was in the unit. That was their bill. But how do you go back and find them anyway? She just said, I just paid it and got it over with. All right, let me go back up. Are you bothered by mosquitoes? No, ma'am. I am on the 30th floor. I don't believe I've seen a mosquito since I've been here. I've seen moths, yes. Um, they were doing some work on the other side of my door, and a couple of times there were a couple of little geckos, but I had like a gap underneath my front door. So now there's a towel there to kind of keeps that. So I haven't had to kill any geckos. When I said I killed a baby gecko, one of you was like, "You killed a baby gecko?" I said, "Yeah, it was on my nightstand." That was too close. Reminded me of the spiders I was fighting in South Africa, waking up and seeing this big old legs right by my head. Oh, I was traumatized. No, no mosquitoes. But when you down, mosquitoes like your legs, right? So they're like lower. That's where the water sit and they congregate. So if you're out at night and you don't have socks and you didn't spray your ankle, you might get bit at night. When I was visiting one year, I was walking at night going from one event to another and I got torn up. And we still have dengue here in Panama in some spots. So when you're gonna go late at night, make sure you're covered up and then you just spray yourself. So because you don't know which mosquito is carrying the virus. But I don't. I don't want any extra financial responsibility when I get there. No country laws interfering in the sale. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. So if you decided to buy property here, make sure you really know how things work in case, you end up having to sell it. I just don't want to be burdened. And like I said in the video, what if I decide to leave? I don't want to have to worry about what do I do with the unit now. Mm-mm. I think I'm going to be portable for the rest of my days. Yeah. Does your building have a backup generator? Yes, ma'am. We do have a backup generator. So I think I could count on one hand the times that I could hear that electric went off, and then within like 10 seconds, it comes back on. So we have a generator. We even have a generator for water. We have a backup water tank. They haven't done too many of that lately. They used to have notices that says they have a plant and it's going to be cleaning, and so the water is going to be shut off. And they always send a note, and people, different WhatsApp group will be sharing the information. My building, I think maybe there was once or twice it kind of spread it a little bit, but and one day I just filled my tub and then the water didn't go off, and I'm like, oh my god, no, I wasted all this water, and I felt so bad because this is one resource I'm very cognizant, because we have so many communities around us that do struggle with potable water. Yes, that is a thing in Panama, and even in Panama City. Some neighborhoods, you see them in the news saying, we don't have water in 2 months, and what do we do? Of course, the poor communities, and it happens in the interior too. Sometimes electric goes off and the water goes off. So if you don't have a backup, you're gonna have problem. And even if you have a casita, even if you rent a casita, sometimes they have like things that collect the rainwater. You want that And you yourself should always have some extra bottled water, which is part of your emergency plan, right? Yes, especially for American. Oh, you're welcome, CD. Okay. Does your bill? Okay, I enjoy that. Auntie, ¿cómo está, Auntie Va? I saw a video where some expat had 1,600 electrical bill, for example. They thought it was gringo pricing. No, I don't think you could apply gringo pricing to something like that because it's coming from, a country agency that manages that. No, it's probably something in the meter, the reading, something is not working. But for you to get it fixed, that's where the problem comes in. And a lot of people are like, you can't fight it, just move. Yeah. Now I haven't heard 1,000. I know his sister paid 500, and then I knew the other one was like 300, 400. No one should have to pay that much money for electricity. Again, unless you somebody who likes to have all your windows, like if you have windows open and then you have AC, that's ridiculous, right? But if you're running it all 24/7, yeah. And there are some apartments that have like four bedroom, five baths, and then you have an central AC to cool all this. Yeah. I see why you don't want to drive here. It's challenging enough. Oh, walking is just as challenging as driving. The other day I was doing that little walking tour, and this person ripped me upside the head. This is a horrible video. I can't believe anybody's. I'm like, I already apologized, saying I was walking, it was moving, and I'm looking. Tomorrow I'm gonna go to that place and try to buy one of these little cameras, and then not touching. They say you had to hold it. I'm like, that's a lot of work. But since I promised to do it, I will, because I think it does give you a good idea of those sidewalks, really thin little paths for you to walk. But the driving, yes, the driving is cray cray. But you know what? People say it's the same everywhere. I remember being in a car, Ghana. I mean, it was crazy too. You go to the Caribbean, they drive like that. So I know one sister with a car and she loves. Hola, Taisha. Oh, girl, I was reading your thing from yesterday, you and Miss Norma with that illusion place. I still haven't been there, but you made me want to go check it out. But it's something that we all have to be conscious of. That these prices can go up and down, and then the driving. That's what I kind of forgotten what we're talking about. Whew. Sometimes you see people driving, and you're like, do they know the rules of driving? You watching the news, and then we have cameras all over, right? So when there's an accident, the camera captures it, and then they're showing it in the news how this accident happened. Somebody comes down a road, right, onto a major thoroughfare, and they come straight through. They don't even stop to look left or right. I don't understand. I don't, right? So there is a lot of that going on. And another thing I tell people with the driving, as a pedestrian, you do not have the right of way. You do not come to a corner and think everybody's going to stop to let you go. No, it doesn't work that way. Now, a lot of them are very kind. If they see you standing there, they'll flash their light, usually meaning you can go. But even then, I make sure I make eye contact, and I'm like, gracias before. And then always use a crosswalk if you can, okay? Don't be just going, and then you see how they kill people too. People start going across, and I've seen it so many times. Instead of slowing down, you see somebody crossing, they speed up. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why. So that's why you do not take a chance crossing the roads here. So I see the taxi drivers are the worst. I mean, they're always in a rush. We tell you that tranquilo, right? Panamanians are chill unless it's in traffic. They honk That's how they communicate, and then they're always in a rush. You turn right and left, you push yourself through. There is no right of way, it's every man for himself. Mhm. When my sister was showing me one day, she said, I'll take you there. So she started driving, and I'm like, she said, that's how you drive here. I remember driving in New York City or driving in Atlanta. Same thing, except it's a little bit more because the place is more congested and in rush hour, and people are always in a rush to go. I don't know what to tell you. But I was doing that walking to the other day, and I saw a little SUV. It wasn't the regular size. I'm like, oh, that is cute. I said, that's the size that I would want. I don't have my driver's license here. I was so like, I am not driving. So every time I go shopping, if I have multiple bags, that's when I miss my car. And I said, well, maybe I will. And then I talk myself right out of it. I'm like, no. And again, for the same reason I don't want to buy property here, what do you do with your car? If you're trying to find a car, you go in those WhatsApp group and you say, I'm looking for this. Somebody usually knows someone who had a car who is leaving Panama. Because remember, Panama is a financial center. You have a lot of international businesses with a presence here. So they have staff that rotate here. So some people would come here with the whole family for like a 3-year assignment from the UN, embassy personnel, all these people. And then they have a car because people have kids. And when they're leaving, they want to get rid of their cars. Those are the best cars to get. And a lot of the people who do tours and stuff, they have those connections. So you go to them if you trust them, and then they'll say, oh, I know somebody who's trying to sell something, and then they'll hook you up. All right. What was the neighborhood you drove through in the recent video that you shared? Was some of them gated? Yes, ma'am. The first one I showed you was Via España, only because I had been to that hospital there, and I said, "Oh, let me walk through it." So I took the metro, and I got off one station. No, no, no. I take the bus. No, I took the metro, and then I was gonna take the bus. But when I put it in my Google Maps, it was like a 3 bus stop. So I'm like, I can walk that. It wasn't super hot because my appointment was at 7:30, so it was still early. So I walked. So on the way back, and I was like, yeah, why did I videotape? And of course, I'm not a pro at it. My phone was kind of looking down, and this girl is like, "Everything you're looking at the ground." I said, "At least you can see the sidewalks." She wasn't having it. She's like, "It's a horrible video," and I'm like, "Okay, whatever." I'd already apologized, because there's only one segment. After that, I did lift it up a little bit, but I'm still learning how to do this. So I decided to Via España. Via España is a very big, long road, and it goes to different neighborhoods. If you keep going north, you're going to be in Rio Abajo. Rio Abajo, that's your first video, Maria, not the last one you asked me about. Rio Abajo is where we have the second largest, or is it the second or third largest Afro-Panamanian community, mostly Jamaicans. So if you're looking for oxtail and I went there and I had ackee and codfish, even though it wasn't, I'm a cook. It's difficult for me to say, oh, it was really good. Really, really. And so you're going to find all that over there. And then the same road, you come, you get to Central, and then that's where we were. What do they call that area? So San Fernando Hospital is there, and then they have a bunch of medical specialties in that area. And I think a little bit further up, further south, you get into El Carmen, which is where I used to live. And I think Tasha used to live there too. El Carmen. And of course, that's the main thoroughfare. And then you have communities on both sides of the main road. The thing I remembered about being in El Carmen, it was super noisy. I talk about the traffic, the Yeah, the traffic was horrendous. And then the taxi cab, beep, beep, beep. Oh, I would be in my living room, and then in the morning during rush hour, I was like, it was like honking, honking, honking. But I remember when I went to see the apartment, and I like to ask people who living, I'm like, they gusta. They took me to the what they call area social, which is the social area. Usually the pools there, and they have places that you can rent if you have a party or whatever, barbecue and stuff. And then this little girl, I'm like, le gusta el apartamento. I'm like, did you like that? And then, do you like the place? She said, yeah, it's okay. And I said, what don't you like about it? She said, it's noisy, ruidoso. And I was like, oh. But I did not think about it until I was living there. And I'm like, oh, she was right. So when my 6 month was up, I knew I didn't want to stay in that same area. And then if you keep going south, then you're gonna hit El Cangrejo on the right and Obarrio on the left, right? It's a main thoroughfare. And then you have the Minimed, one of the large Minimed clinic also in that area. And then you get lots of restaurants and all kinds of stuff there. El Rey is there. And then I think if you keep going, Via España, where does it end? I wonder if it gets to Cinco de Mayo. But anyway, it's a very long road. It's kind of middle of the, if you in terms of pricing, you probably get better pricing, of course, for apartments there than you would somewhere where I am, Costa del Este or Balboa or Bella Vista, other places. Okay, so location, location, location. So if you want a budget, you want to look more in those areas, right? And then I think the next one I want to do for you guys is Pueblo Nuevo. That's another area. I remember when I was in an Uber, one of the years I was visiting, and I'm always asking the Uber driver, what's with the area? He said to me that's where a lot of canal workers used to live in Pueblo Nuevo. But it does have a metro station, whereas there are several areas in the city that do not have metro access. So, Via España, once you get closer to the south, you're going to have Via Argentina, Fernandez de Cordoba, and then you get some metro station, but it's not uniform, right? Um, so people need to know that there are other areas where you could stay where you don't have to pay $1,500 a month for an apartment, right? And that's what I want. I'm not gonna tell you like some people that you can get an apartment for $500. I don't know those places. I can't tell you those. I know. I wouldn't want to live in a place like that, right? Because I'm staying in a building. I want that 24-hour security. I don't want anybody coming and ringing my bell that I don't know about. I pay for that, and I don't want to change that. And I did tell you in the video that if with your budget or you don't like the heat, you don't like the city, it's too busy for you, everybody has their choices, which is great. So if you're going to rent a casita in David or Pedasi or some other places, try to make sure you are like in a compound, that you're not by yourself in a little casita in the middle of nowhere by yourself, a single older woman. To me, that would not be a safe thing to do. All right. Um, if you don't want to drive here, oh, she said that already. Yes. So the next video I did, T, it was in an area called Altos de Panama because we have a sister who just moved there. When they say altos, that means it's elevated, right? And that's why I didn't see too many high rises there. There was one in the middle of all these beautiful homes. So I knew that they would have beautiful vistas, views. So, and then we, outside the window of this girl, there's a big elevated area like a mountain. So it's in a higher elevation. I did not feel it's not like Costa. What is it, Costa del Sur? There's another area not too far from here where it's a little bit in the mountain, where it's cooler. They had a lot of homes, um, and my friend says that a lot of Chinese people live there. Well, the Chinese, they work hard, So yes, they live there. I saw a school, and a lot of the homes. I drove through El Dorado one time, and I'll do another video about that. El Dorado also is Chinatown, right? So this area I was visiting the other day, it's like an extension, because it is. There is a place called J. Alfaro, another major road. So it's the outskirt. It's on the outside of it, right? And it is between Ancon and San Miguelito. Well, San Miguelito gets a bad rap because of some gang and crime and stuff, but not every area is bad. So that's where that area is, and they have a lot of homes, with I don't say garages, but like carport where you can have your car, and didn't see a lot of grassy areas. So that means the homes were like close to each other. I'm a Florida girl. I like to see grass. I like trees, and I don't like my home to be touching somebody else's. So I don't think I would want to buy a house there. But the home that I saw was really, really nice. And of course, they're not cookie cutter. They don't all look the same. I saw Super 99. I saw um, pet stores, because Panama is crazy about pets. So that's what I'm going to do whenever I do the walking tours. I'm going to make sure I show you about walkability. I want to show you how easy it is for you to get to your pharmacy, hospital, food stores. If I see any corner fruterias where you can get, your fruits and veggies, because those are the things that you want to know. If you get an apartment for $900, but what else do you get, right? How far do you have to go shopping? And I think in Panama, you don't have to go too far to find a food store or a mini super or a place where you can buy food. Seriously, seriously. But anyway, it's called Altos de Panama, the highlands of Panama. That's how you would translate that, right, Tasha? Okay. Um, Gate. Um, my friend did have a gate in her area. They had different parcels, right? And then not all of them, but you do have some places that are gated. And of course, remember, and I asked her, did you use a realtor? She said, no, I found the home myself. And that's what I tell people to do now. I say, if you want to get an apartment, don't bother with the realtors really, because one, unless you want to rent right away, they're not going to waste time with you. Two, some of them are asking people now to show them apartment, which is not legal. They're not supposed to do that. But if you're in a bind, three, that's one of the benefits of doing the tours, because they take you to different areas so you can get a feel. But seeing a place, doing a tour, is not the same as being boots on the ground and living in there, walking it, and really seeing it. Because when you're on a tour, you're on a high. Your eyes are just like ooh and ah. This is not a good time for you to be making decisions. You need to come on your own. And a lot of people are doing that. They say, well, I was on a tour with Charlotte, and I took that tour last year, and then they're coming back to do their own research. And I think it's good. I didn't do a tour. For me it was expensive, but hey. Uh yes, I remember driving in New York City. I'm from New York. Uh Please be careful walking and blogging. You can't afford to fall. Yes, yes. Well, that's why this person said, oh, all I could see was the ground. Well, I got to walk and see where I'm stepping, right? Thank you, though. I'm very careful. And I was trying to show that in the video. Not only do you come up on some God forsaken, you don't know why they have a hole in the middle of the sidewalk for no reason. So if you're doing this, that's when you might get into in one of those. And people have broken ankles and elbows and shoulders. Yes, you got to make sure you're looking where you're stepping. But sometimes you have the ground, as uneven as it is, but they'll have like a piece of metal jutting up from the ground for no reason. And I can tell you several times I'm walking with my tennis shoes like Tasha does. I don't go out there looking, trying to show my pretty toes and stuff. They're not pretty anyway, right? But this is not the time to do that. I can tell you how many times the front of my sneakers would hit that and I would stumble. I have not hit the ground yet, but for some reason, and then you see it like this tall, it's a piece of iron or something coming off the ground. I have no clue. I have no clue. But those are hazards as well. It was difficult crossing the street, and it seems like stop signs are suggestions. Yes. I said that, and I think the Panamanian got upset with me. I said, I have yet to see somebody come to a stop sign and to a full stop. They might slow down a little bit, and then it's like every man for himself. You go first. There is no right of way. This one goes first. Mm-mm. No. That's why when you come to a stop sign, right, to a corner, if you see a sidewalk, sometimes you have to walk to the sidewalk, cross, and then go back to where you needed to go. And I see people crossing the road, taking a chance, you could get killed. And someone said the police get upset when I see people do that. What do they call that? Jaywalking. But anyway, yeah, it's not easy. I remember when I was in El Carmen, I used to walk to Parque Omar. I go down via Porras, and there was one particular corner. I would be standing there, and it's not very often that somebody would flash their light because they want to go, and you want to cross that road. Mm-mm. Sometimes I walk a block to the sidewalk, crosswalk, and then I turn around and come back. You have to be careful for yourself. They're not gonna worry about you. Mm-mm. There aren't a lot of crosswalk, but a lot of horn honking. Yes, I told you that. Communicate, Carmen. Hey, Carmen. Yes, I'll see you on Monday, right? But yeah, you got, and this is the thing where you have to manage your expectations. Don't come here saying, oh, this is the way the traffic flows. These are traffic rules. No, ma'am. Know where you are. Because as a pedestrian, you have no rights. It's up to you to keep yourself safe. It's not to the conductor. Mm-mm. Because they got places to go. They're always in a rush. And they get distracted. You know, it is World Cup. You know how many Ubers I get into the car and they're watching the game while they're driving me around? I haven't said anything to any of them. You know, put your seatbelt on and pray until you get there. You just say, thank you, God. They're watching the game as they are driving you around. Yes. And I don't know that there are rules about them not using their cell phone. I think I said that sometime and somebody got upset. And I'm like, is there a law that said you're not supposed to be using your phone? I don't know. I don't know. But I know they're always on their phone. Yes. Security is important, especially for single women. Absolutely. Yes, I need my doorman in security. Mm-mm. You know, I think again, I think it has to do with what season you're in, la temporada. What is your season? See, when I was 50, 40s, you feel kind of invincible, right? You feel that, you know, nothing's going to happen to you, which is a fallacy anyway. But as you get older and your reflexes are not as sharp, this is a gerontologist talking to you now, right? I'm a specialist in aging. And that's why I tell people we can do everything that we know to do. You exercise, you eat right, but that is not a guarantee that things won't happen to you, okay? The heart attack, the stroke, you could still have it. The cancers, yes. How many vegans do you know? People who are so healthy coming down with a horrible cancer. We don't have the answer to that. I heard this lady said she went to her doctor, and it wasn't even melanoma, it was some crazy cancer that she got. And she said, well, why did this happen to me? I do this, I watch what I eat, I exercise, I do this and that. And she said she found a doctor who was a human. She said the doctor had tears in his eyes. He said, you just got hit by lightning. I thought that was powerful. That means the odds got nothing to do with you doing everything right. It can still happen. So you got to keep it in the back of your mind that as your body is getting older, things are going to not work as well. That and I got to tell myself that all the time. I'm a cardiac nurse, right? I work in the ICU. I love the heart. And I would sit here and I say, you have a heart that is beating from the time of conception, because we're listening to the baby's heartbeat in the womb, right? It starts to beat, and it beats nonstop 24/7 for 68 years. That's a lot of beating. So, any piece of equipment that you have that has worked that long is going to experience some breakdown. We get pacemakers, we get atrial fibrillation, we get things, the joints hurt. It has nothing to do with you not doing things. Of course, some of us abuse our bodies, right? We know that. But those people like us who are very cognizant and we take care of ourselves, still stuff happen to us. All right? So keep that in mind. It's got nothing to do with how healthy you are. Okay? So security, you guys know I was victimized. I got I got pickpocketed, so I had to adjust. And then we had like a couple of people get mugged not too far from here. So it kind of is bringing everything into focus that it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're in Panama City or whether they have crime happening in Boquete, home invasions, and I just join a Facebook group that says they're not telling you the truth because some things happen that are not reported. I'm like, okay, I don't want to become a conspiracy theorist, but I just need to know what's happening around me. And I know the sister got her phone snatched out of her hand not too far from here. Two ladies got robbed at one of those overpasses. So that doesn't mean I don't love the place. I still love the place, but you got to shift, right? I used to be in those streets at night walking. I love to walk. I don't do that anymore. And that doesn't mean that you're afraid. It means that you are somebody who is aware of what's happening or where you are. So wherever you are, when they say head on a swivel, yeah, I didn't have my head on a swivel when the guy went into my backpack and took my wallet. That was stupid. And that's why I said that. It's my fault. But right now, I don't carry my purse. I have like a small little thing. I put it in the bag. I'm aware. You don't get too close to me. Okay. So, in terms of safety, you got to take responsibility. But even then, doesn't mean you may not be a victim, right? As long as you do everything that you know to do to reduce your risk, which is what we do health wise too. If you keep eating all the junk, you don't sleep, you're smoking, and the people who smoke, nothing happens to them, some of them, right? This young, beautiful 32-year-old mother who's a vegan and exercise nut came up with lung cancer. And within 2 years, she fought hard, but she died. I'll never forget that, I watched her because, those are the videos that get views because everybody was saying, oh, what's happening? What's happening? They want to know, the drama in your life. And she came up and she's like, I'm dying. I'm dying. She had participated in some research, some studies, and they tried everything. And then finally, the doctor looked at them, her and her beautiful husband, and two young kids, two young babies, to say, that's it. You have about a month left. Oh, she was so distraught. How do you not just cry with her? Hmm? She did everything right. She took care of herself. But I have no answer for her. No answer. All right. So as you get older, your reflexes are not as strong or as sharp. When you get sick, it might take you a little longer to recover. Your immunity is not as strong. That's why you got to protect yourself. You wear the mask when you need to. You take the vaccine when you need to. Okay, this is not a discussion about vaccine, anti-vax. No, let's not go there. But you do whatever you need to do to protect yourself. That's what I'm saying. Because the parts are going to start to show signs of wear and tear, the joints, right? All right. Did you use a lawyer when you were applying for your immigration? Yes, that's the law. You cannot do it on your own. And you have to hire a Panamanian attorney. Yes, ma'am. If you were looking to find a relative in Panama City, and you did not have the address and phone number, do Panama have yellow pages? I don't think so. But I think what some people have done, they join different um, Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups, and then they put it there. I'm looking for so and so. She used to live there. She goes by this name, blah, blah, blah. And who knows? Because we have a lot of locals within our groups. So they watch our posts, they join our group. So they might be able to, I don't know about the yellow pages. Even though they do have public phones that work, I was like, you don't see that very often, but they use public phones. Yellow pages? I don't know. What would they call them? Páginas amarillas? I don't know. I have never. No one's ever asked me that before. Hola, Eve. ¿Cómo estás? Anything else, ladies? So, as I said, for the walks, Panama has 26 neighborhoods. 26. Now, in the last 3 years, I have gone through many different communities. Sometimes now I'm a bit busier, but I used to just hop on a bus and just see where it takes me. I kind of keep watching, and when the last person gets off, I get off too. And then I go around, I look. I think I remember I ended up in a place called Siesta, which is outside of the airport way, I guess. What border would that be? Colombia? No, that's the opposite. It's not west, it's not east, it's north. But anyway, so they have different neighborhoods. And of course, we do have some neighborhoods that are like, eh. And of course, I would never be there at night on my own. And you try to blend as much as you can. And I know I wanted to go to San Miguelito, which is one of the hotbeds here. But you don't hear not a lot happening during the day, even though we've had some shootouts between the gangs in some areas. But I hop on a bus. I didn't know I was going to San Miguelito. What was it called again? But anyway, so it went through San Miguelito, and I'm like, oh. So I got off. And I said, let me walk around. So I found La Panaderia, which is the bakery. I saw the mini supers, and I saw the people. They were kind. And there's a gentleman who was sitting there, and I'm like, oh, senor, how do I get back? He said, oh, you just cross the street and the bus. Yeah. Because in the city, it's not as easy. A lot of streets are one-way streets. So if you take a bus to go that way, you don't have a way to come back just crossing the street. You really have to kind of go 3 or 4 blocks down, and then the return bus is on the other, that way. So, and that's how I discovered Panama. I've been to a lot of different interior areas. Just I would hop on a long-term bus. I went to Bocas del Toro like that. Went to Boquete several times like that. And I love to just be on the tall buses, and I get on the second level and then just watch, because the drive from the city to Boquete is beautiful. I mean, if you get there in one piece, because if you have a driver who's speeding, you got you got to have the rosary because they're going to the mountains like that, and then they come into a corner, they don't slow down. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, I can see this bus just doing this little roll over because, and the mid bus, the smaller ones, they do not stop. And I'm like, why? Whew, yes. And we have had many, many accidents on the road this year. Many, many. And the police is like, oh, they don't slow down. Oh, they get distracted. And I'm like, well, you're speaking to the wind because they're still doing it. Yeah. It's always good to know what's going on around you so you can be prepared. Yes. Have you ever thought about taking martial art basic lesson? You mean martial arts? No. I don't think I'm that well coordinated. I probably wouldn't do well. Well, one sister talked about she had her mace. I'm like, I need to get me some mace and peppers. Oh, she's like, yeah, I want anybody walking behind me, and I got my pepper spray. I'm like, oh, I need to get me some too. And of course, if you mention that, on the videos, and this person's like, well, I'm so glad I live in the country where I can work at night. I'm like, I don't respond to those. I don't. Martial arts, I see them for babies. I don't think I've seen them for adults here, for children. What about people with an existing chronic illness like cancer? Would Panama's healthcare accommodate? Oh, yeah, they will accommodate you. Just show your credit card. Of course. You're not going to get insurance, though, if you have cancer. You'd have to go with Aetna or Cigna or one of those international plans, and then they would charge you like $2,000 a month. Yes. But you're not going to get a local insurance plan if you have a history of cancer. And this is another video I'll do about my journey through the healthcare system because I finally, after I have Medicare Advantage, so I know if I had an accident, I would be treated at one of those hospitals after I give my card. They would get their money from me and then give me the claim to submit to my plan because they wanted to start paying billing for us, and then our plans are doing the same game that they play. Oh, you didn't use the right code, or you didn't give this piece of thing. And then they delay payment. And the hospitals are like, we're not doing that. You pay up and then you deal with them. But I went finally after I talked to agent back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that's why I was at San Fernando last week. Got some labs. And then the doctor asks you, do you have a history of this, a history of that? I don't lie, right? Yeah, it runs in my family. That runs in my family. You know what he did? He wrote every single thing I told him as a pre-existing condition. And with that, that means then they sent me a letter saying, oh, okay, you need to sign this form that says, because you have these, and I'm basically healthy, right? Because I know something's wrong in my family, so I take care of myself. So for 2 years, 24 months, anything remotely related to those things that run in your families, we're not going to cover. And after 2 years, we're only going to cover it at 50%. And I started thinking, and it's like, we pay to go to the doctor, get your teeth cleaned, your eyes checked, and everything else. I can continue to do that. And most of us have signed up with MiniMed, where you can have your lab work. If you break your bone, they'll do an x-ray. That doesn't cover being admitted to that hospital. Don't get it confused. But the outpatient stuff, you get seen, and then you get a break on the pricing for labs and x-rays and stuff like that. So I wasn't going to sign that. So now the young lady who spoke Spanish or bilingual, spoke English, she's like, oh, Miss Maggie, if you have any questions, let me know. And I said, well, I started thinking that definitely I know it wasn't insurance because those two from San Fernando and then, what is that hospital? Santa Fe, they're not insurance program. They're just like a discounted plan that is managed by the hospital. And I'm like, this is not insurance. This is a good program for healthy person. And a lot of the insurances here, they stop at 64. If you're over 65, you're out of luck. You only have those two plans that I talked about. So I need to people to understand that Panama is a beautiful place. Well, for the very old, it's not so much, because as I come to prepare, to die or whatever, yes, we can do all that conceptually. But when you come to chronic illness, if you have cancer, we have a beautiful cancer center. I mean, they have cancer doctors here. But every time you go, if you had dialysis, if you had a certain medication, you pay out of pocket for all those things. If you get admitted and you have a Medicare Advantage, again, show your credit card and then deal with your insurance company. But I'm thinking if you needed chemo, all that's going to come out of pocket. Yep. And in fact, we have a sister who ended up going back because she had multiple um, pre-existing condition and she could not find a plan that would cover her. So she went back. Those are the realities of growing old. Okay. And that's why I said in one video that one Panamanian said to me, she said, well, I love it that you guys love my country. But she said, for those of you who are retirees, when you get sick, a lot of you are going to have to go back because we, Panamanian, she said, we have family that we can trust to take care of our loved one. You guys don't. That's what SWRA is trying to do, right? On some level, but still, who's paying? How much can you pay? Those are heavy, very important conversations to have with yourself and your family. Realistically, yes. Yep. Uh, we talked about the cancer. Right. If you, no, Auntie, I'm talking about if you have a history of cancer, any insurance company is going to take a step back and say, well, let's look at the whole picture. Because listen, they're in business. And when you have a history of cancer, the probability is that you're going to cost them a lot of money. You have to understand that. Insurance is a business, and no one is going to go in business to lose money. And you are a liability when you have multiple things that have happened to you in the past. That's just the reality, right? Wouldn't the medical care be cheaper? Definitely everything that gets done to you that you're paying out of pocket is cheaper. But if you, let's say you needed open heart surgery, that's going to cost you 1,000. Doesn't matter whether you're here or not, because of the seriousness of the condition, right? If you had your gallbladder out, I think this lady had her gallbladder out, I forgot, it wasn't that much money, right? If you went to have, with that plan I told you I was looking at, if you have like an elective, let's say you have bad arthritis of the hip, I think they said 3 years you have to wait for them to even consider you doing that hip. But if you fall down and break it, yes, I think you pay $500 and then they pay 70% in an emergency. So sometimes it's not. But if you tell them you had arthritis, that's when that goes in there that you have arthritis. But how many people in their 70s do you know who don't have arthritis? Most of us have something, right? It's like they're forcing you to lie to them. And then if you get caught that you had that condition, you didn't disclose it, they probably can drop you. And then even before they accept you, you got to get your lab work. I had to have lab work, urine, lab, EKG, and then they sit down as a group, they review your record, and they say yay, nay. Anybody who appears to be a high risk, they would say no. And remember the mindset that we had over there when the ACA saying you cannot dismiss people for pre-existing condition. Those business insurance people didn't want to go for it. because they're like, that's going to cost us money, and they don't want to lose money. For an immigration attorney, again, because of things having changed in the last few years, the cost has gone up for some attorneys. I'm hearing anything between $1,500 to $2,500. And that's why when you are looking for an attorney, you ask people for referral, and then you have like a free consultation via Zoom. You ask the attorney what their fee is going to be, and that's why I tell people when I consult, what does it include? Is it getting you the residency? Does it include helping you get your driver's license? Does it include getting your e-cedula, which is your national ID? What's the other one? Does it include them sending a staff member to you to help you open your bank account? So you have to ask them to itemize exactly what they're giving you. But that's it. That's the plan. I've even heard like 3,000, but that's including all the stuff that I just told you: your e-cedula, driver's license, and bank. Which you don't need the attorney to do those things for you. We have what we call, what do they call these people again? And people pay, helping you, they charge you like $25 an hour to go to the bank with you to open your bank account, or driver's license. You can go watch a video about how to do that. So you don't have, it can be a la carte. Okay. But yeah, you got to pay. And I know somebody, when they hear 1,500, they're like, oh my God, that's expensive. Actually, that's the cheapest one right now if you can find it. There is one lawyer group that is kind of new on the scene, and they're a little bit cheaper. So you always want to do your due diligence. For serious pre-existing conditions, yeah, like I said, cancer is like almost definite no, right? But if you say I have high blood pressure, or I have diabetes, of course they're going to draw your blood, they're going to see what your labs are. But as long as you have that as a possibility, they're going to list it as a pre-existing condition. Somebody with lupus, somebody with COPD, somebody with arthritis, everything that you can think of that would affect an older body, right? Cardiac issues, you had a heart attack or you had a pacemaker. Yeah. And a lot of them, they might not say, and I think Santa Fe and San Fernando are the same. What they do say is that if you have it, we list it, we just delay it. And I think they're hoping that within the 2 years, they say we're not going to cover it. Maybe you'll kick the bucket. I don't know. But they say after the 2 years, they make you wait, then they'll pay 50% of whatever it costs. If you admit it or everything, they just cut it. You pay 50%. So you're gonna have to pay. You're gonna pay out of pocket. So if you have pre-existing conditions and you are 65 and above, Panama would be a place to visit. I agree. I'm starting to come to that realization myself, right? And that's why it's good to talk to people who are here. And a lot of people think that because they have mini med that they're covered. And people who have experienced Minimed will tell you no, because Minimed was one of those companies that had said, we are going to use this company, this billing company out of Mexico, to bill your insurance company for you, right? And the expat plan does not include hospitalization. So you can go to the clinic and have your labs drawn, get x-ray, you have the sniffle, you have the flu. Yeah, that's great. But if you're in the bed, they have to have an insurance company to bill for you for that. And one sister, I mean, she's not part of my group, but she had a stroke. She had symptoms of a stroke. And a couple of sisters took her to Minimed. And I don't remember whether she was on the expat plan or not. The expat plan, you pay like 20 some dollars a month. And then which is a great value. I don't even know how they do it. Unlimited labs and stuff like that. I don't understand that. I'm a business person, and that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But when she got there, As a nurse, I can tell you that if you present to an emergency room in the US, granted, you're not like in the boonies somewhere where they don't have anything. As soon as you get there and they look at you, you have signs of a stroke, they're going to start giving you aspirin, they're going to start heparin, blood thinners, they'll start an IV, get you oxygen, check your EKG. They will do that basically because there is a law that says you got to provide care, right? But when she got to Minimed said, "Oh, you having a stroke. Well, you need ICU." And apparently they have ICU in that hospital on Tuba Muerto. You need to be in the ICU for monitoring. Well, we think we need to have a deposit of $5,000 to admit you to the ICU. Do you have that on the credit card? Can we bill for that? And that's just a deposit. That doesn't mean when you finish caring for you, all the tests, MRI, and all that, it's going to be probably higher. She said no, she didn't have that on her credit card because you should know what your limit is on your credit card, right? It's funny, the other day I got a note that my credit line was increasing. I'm like, thank God. She didn't have it, my sister. And you know what they did? They said, well, then we're going to have to send you to the public hospital. And that's what they did. So, from a medical standpoint, the 90-minute window is important, whether you're having a heart attack or you're having a stroke. Because when you have that clot that's blocking that artery where the fresh blood is supposed to go through, we have 90 minutes to give your medication. We call those clot busters, right? They put an IV, they inject you with that medication, it goes straight and dissolve that clot so the blood can flow and the tissue doesn't die in your brain or in your heart. Well, the whole time they're doing all the shenanigans to order the ambulance, hours had passed. So she had missed that window. These are the kind of things people need to understand. When you move to a country and the insurance situation is not clearly defined, there is no law in Panama that says that if you can't pay, they have to provide care for you. No. And my insurance agent told us that. Mm-mm. I was in Accra, Ghana. Somebody came with a stroke. I look at that man and I'm like, oh, this is not looking good. And of course, I was just observing. I didn't have to say anything. The man, they put him on the bed. There were no sheets on the bed, no pillowcases, nothing. They just laid him there. And I'm like, ooh, from an American standpoint, I was like, that was jarring to me. And I could see his family came. They were saying, this, give her all the slip. You have to go to the pharmacy to get the IV, the medication, pay for the labs before they start any of that in an emergency. And the next day I came and I looked, the bed was empty. And I'm like, oh, where is he? They said, oh, he died. I wasn't surprised. So this is where you're going to manage your expectation that what you know over here, it doesn't mean it's the same. What you know over there, it's the same over here. So you have to learn that. There is no law that says they have to. That's why I tell you, bring your credit card. In an emergency, you need care. Give the credit card. Yes, you're going to be in debt again, but what are you going to do? All right? And I don't know that wherever you go, because remember, now you have the public health system here. This is something you need to understand, that it's not like, they took her to the hospital, the public hospital, and she did end up getting care there, right? But it may not be to the same standard that she would have gotten over there, right? So the public system is still available to us, even as foreigners. It's just that you don't have the bells and whistles, and the amenities are not the same. And I remember this sister said, well, you got to be ready for the public system. We have wards, bed, 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 bed. And and you're in their country. Everybody's talking in Spanish. You don't know what's going on. So I tell people when they come to you, they say, "Señora," blah, blah, blah. You say, "Sí, sí." You don't know what you're saying "sí" to. That's dangerous, right? Learn your Spanish, okay? And then people will say, well, I have my Google Translate, but if you're not feeling good, you're not well, are you really able to access your Google Translate? Are you going to have a sister sitting there at the bedside translating for you? Okay. So you have access to the public health system. It is very affordable, very affordable. I think this gentleman said did he have a knee done? I think he had a knee replacement, and it was like $1,500. Like I said, you're gonna pay, but it's not gonna be near what you would have paid over there without insurance. Okay. This lady had her gallbladder out. I think she paid, was it 500 something? So it is affordable, but you still have to pay it before you get discharged. They're not going to write you an IOU. No. You can't say, may I have a payment plan? No. So someone's going to have to come and get you out. So even if it's $700, I know I heard Jackie say somebody was in the hospital somewhere in Boquete, and they were in the hospital so many days, and then they paid like a dollar something. I don't know anything about that. I know that's not going to be here in the city, okay? But it is definitely affordable. That's why we tell our sisters we have an emergency bag, and in our emergency bag we have shoes, a change of clothes, toiletries, right? A sweater, a robe, a sheet, some pillowcases, towels, washcloth. They do not provide those things. You got to bring your own or your family. And since you don't have any family, you just be ready. So if something happens to you, you say, please get my emergency bag. And then you have your medical records and stuff in there so that you can be ready. And call your sisters to come see about you. This is new to us. All right. And I know every time I do a live, we always go back to the healthcare thing because I'm discovering. I had to send a note to my insurance agent. She did a presentation for our group. And then I debated. I wrestled with the decision. Finally, I decided to check out one of those discount plan. But like I said, they put everything on there as a fix. Everything happened to my uncle, my mother, my daddy. They put it all there. Because they go to that list and they answer a question. I can't lie to you. I don't lie. So I said, well, I'm not going to sign that letter that says you're not going to cover anything. So I'm like, if you don't cover anything related to A, B, C, D, E, what do I have you for? If you have an emergency, I can use my Medicare Advantage, even though I have to fight with the insurance company. So it takes a lot of thought. So if you have precondition, yeah. There is a sister, I call her a sister, older woman as well. She's in Colombia. And I think I heard her say one time, it's not easy to get the residency. You have to hire somebody again to kind of walk you through it. But once you get your permanent residency, you can apply for the national insurance program. So that's something to look into. I think the same thing for Portugal. Now, Portugal, as far as I know, in order for you to get your residency, you have to show proof that you have insurance. So you have to have bought the insurance before you get your residency. Panama does not ask that. As long as you pay your attorney and they submit your application, you get your residency because then they know that if anything happens to you, there is no you're gonna crowd the system because even if you go again if you go to a public hospital also not just the amenities and then you have to bring your sheets and stuff like that but you're probably gonna wait Because when you go to Santo Tomas, which is close to me, and I've been there with some people, the room is full, so you got to take your turn. If you're in pain or whatever, oh well, because this is for the people. You're just being allowed to participate. So get in line. All right. One good thing about the public system is that Panama has a law that says the docs that you see in the private hospital by law have to rotate in the public hospital. So you don't have a lower tier of doctors. They're all, that's why they know each other. They know who's, and then there's another hospital called Hospital Nacional. And I'm always thinking, I said, well, maybe that's a public hospital. It's not, it's private. And, if you go to your primary doctor and you say, I have this issue and you need to be admitted, he'll direct you to which hospital to go to because they know where their colleagues are for whatever your issue is. So that's a good thing. And that's another thing for our emergency plan. If you fall at home, something happens to you, don't call 911 first, call your doctor and they'll give you directions. Okay. And the docs are very nice. Okay. I haven't met anyone in our circles who's had a bad experience with a doctor. I mean, in some chat rooms, I've heard some stuff about OBGYN doctors, and I don't have to worry about that. But the doctors that our expats see, they've been very happy with. And if you're a veteran, you get pristine care here in Panama. As long as whatever is wrong with you is service related, there is a little caveat. We haven't had wars here for many years. When you say here, where is here, Auntie? In the US? Oh no, we have wards here. I had a sister who had a 10-year-old, had some issues, and I went to see them. She was in a ward with other kids. I went to the emergency room at Santo Tomas, the public hospital, and you go into a big room, and then they have people lined up like this, with like a plastic thing divider. And I'm like, if you have some infection, breathing or whatever, yeah, we're sharing it. Hmm. Yes, the fixers. Thank you, Miss HB. Yes, the fixers. Some of them, this guy, he used to be working in the school, he said. He said he's left the school system. He said he's so happy working with the expat, picking up from the airport, taking them on tours, and going to get driver's license, opening bank accounts. Yeah, he's doing really well. Are you pro Panama? Panama has public hospitals. They also have various options for healthcare. Yes, I am in Panama. I'm currently in Panama and I've toured from Panama City to Boquete. Yes, Panama is what you make it. I'm not sure what you mean about that. We're talking about healthcare. I've been here 3.5 years and I've been through all the different areas. And unless you've experienced the healthcare system, and then, yeah, going to doctors, paying your doctor for your visit, having labs done, all these things are pretty good. What we worry about as people who are aging is the major things that happen to you, okay? And how you pay for it. And if you are Jackie Lang, she told you she had COVID and she was in the hospital, she had a 17,000 dollar bill. She paid it, but it took her 9 months to get her money back from her insurance company. I am not telling you anything that you can't find out for yourself. That's got nothing to do with being pro or against. We're just saying be aware of the realities of being older here. And I tell sisters, I have some sisters who are like in their 50s. I said, do the best you can and latch onto a plan and stay there because they're not going to kick you off once you hit 65. Is that most of the plans stop at 64. They won't even touch you because the age stops at 64, which is something they should reconsider because 65 is no longer the standard that says things start going down, you start falling off, and you're going to kick the bucket. No, we're living longer, we're healthier, but it is what it is. I just saw the doctor and it cost you $15 medication. Where was that? Was that in the city? or the US with, yeah, no, we don't, I don't think I've ever seen wards, and I'm a nurse. I worked for 43 years. No, I've never worked anywhere where we had wards, but we have wards here. Yeah. And Jackie says in Boquete, you can see a doctor for $15. Yes. I don't know anybody who does that here in the city. I may be wrong. I never say I know everything. How can we find the guy who used to be a teacher if we need him? You just ask me and I'll give you his contact. And there are others too. You know what people are doing now? When you get to the airport and you call an Uber, they start conversing with you, and then the conversation usually goes, "Well, if you ever need anything, here's my number." And a lot of people have gotten their drivers, their fixers through their Uber drivers because they tell each other. So we have a couple of ladies that, because we have a resource guide that we give their numbers out. When I make consultation calls, they're always asking for, lawyers. So I always give them two or three choices of each. Mm-hmm. Yep. Anything else? Now, one of the things that I was looking at maybe last year or so was the emergency services. Now, I I've gotten better at it because if you outside, even let's say you're in the city and something happens to you, need care, you call 911. We have 911, but the 911 ambulance will take you to a public hospital, Santo Tomas, or they have one in the San Miguelito area. They have different ones, right? But each hospital here has their private ambulances. Now, SEMM is probably the largest one here. They contract with a lot of different hospitals. So that's why we say call your doctor, and the doctor himself is going to call the hospital where he wants you to go, and that hospital will fetch you with their ambulances. But we know what the traffic is like here in Panama, like in Panama City, I should say, in rush hour traffic, right? You may have a little trouble getting from point A to point B with the ambulance and Uber. So you kind of have to get your mind to understand that you may be caught in traffic even in emergency. There are no helicopter pads to come pick you up. I said maybe somebody working on a drone service or something. But you may be stuck, right? Okay. I'm just saying. But some people, even I bank at Benitsmo, and one day I went to Benitsmo, and because they see me there all the time, and they're like, "Senora, we have this plan at domicilio." So they have some plans where I'm paying like $8.49, I think, a month, and then somebody can come to my home if I can't get to the lab. They'll draw my blood. I have I have unlimited video calls with physicians, and what else do they do? And I think it covers like 2 ambulance rides a year. So a lot of us have these little supplemental plans, right? In case something happens to us. But yeah, you may be stuck in an ambulance trying to get, that's just what happens. But when I was thinking about other places, right? Boquete is one that doesn't have a hospital. There is a clinic in Volcan, and then the next hospital is in David. Well, David is like 45 minutes from Boquete. So the best thing for you to get to a hospital is somebody put you in a car if you have your driver or Uber. The Uber in Boquete, I think it's taxis, to take you to the hospital. All right, so you got to think about that. And then somebody chimed in one time. He said he's in one of those beach areas, and he has like a little construction business. And he said one of his workers got cut, and he said there was no 911 for him to take him to the next clinic in Coronado. So he said he had the foresight to put a tourniquet on the guy's leg that was shattered or bleeding, and tie it and put him in his car and drive him to the clinic. Those are the things you got to think about. There is no 911 service in every community. So if you like in your 70s, 80s, and you're a beach bum and you want to be at the beach, yes, but where is the nearest clinic? Now, some hospitals, some places, like if you go to Penenome, Chitre, David, and other places, they probably have a hospital, but somebody has to take you there. And some of these hospitals, sometimes in the news, you hear them. I've heard hospital. The AC went out, or the dialysis machine is not working. So those are the things that you have to get into your mind. That when you make those decisions, just know that it's an informed decision. That if those things happen, that's your reality. And then if you're okay with it, nobody has anything to say to you about that. You're grown. How can we find the guy? Yeah, I tell you that. There used to be wards at New York Presbyterian. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I remember Montefiore Hospital in the Bronx and some of the hospitals in Brooklyn and stuff. Yeah. But no, I never worked anywhere where we had wards. I mean, semi private rooms, yes. Mhm. All righty. But for the prices that they charge you, this sister who had her daughter admitted to the pediatric hospital here, I think the little girl was there for maybe 3 days, and they ran all kind of tests and did all kinds of things for her. And when she was discharged, her bill was really, really low. Yeah. So that's the plus on this side. And that's why I have one sister who is, she used to be in our group, and she said, if anything happens to me, take me to Santo Tomas. And she already had it in her head that she's good. She doesn't want to go to the fancy hospital and have, her credit card and bill. She said, take me to Santo Tomas. Those are the things you have to come to conclusion. You'll be okay. And people have surgery and everything. I've heard a couple of not so positive stories, but hey, you have that everywhere you go. Yep. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the plans have the ambulance service to take you back. Yeah. And if you have Cigna, Aetna, yes, they're all going to take you back, right? But make sure you read that in your policy that it is something. Even the travel insurance, sometimes we tell people if you're going to be here as a snowbird, for 6 months, just get the travel insurance and it helps with emergencies. And then some of them do have the service of taking you back. Me, I don't really want to be taken back, but that's everybody has to decide that for themselves, right? Yep. I think I heard it wasn't too long ago, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, one expat died in a car accident on that highway. That's crazy highway that we have, Inter-American Highway. Lots of accidents. I think they've had over 2,000 accidents this year yet, and maybe 300 plus deaths. So it stays busy, that little that little stretch of land. Anything else, ladies? Oh my God, how long we've been talking? 5:51, over an hour, almost two. Anything else? Auntie, did I answer your question, Maria? But if you're not 65 yet, I would say talk to an insurance agent, find a plan, and stay there. Because those discounted programs, it's not really insurance. But if you don't have anything wrong with you, the discount plans will work. You're just gonna know in your head that if anything happens to you, you're gonna pay 30% and they pay 70%. But if you have the Medicare Advantage, you can register with Pacifica Salud, you can register with the Panama Clinic, and they already have you in the system. You pay and then you submit your claim. You know what? It's better than nothing, right? Mm-hmm. Oh yes, more. No, no, 300 deaths, over 2,000 traffic accidents. Yes, and we have several just pedestrian being hit. I mean, crossing the road. Yeah, or the buses rolling over. I told you they don't stop at the curve. So yeah, you'll be 65 this month. Uh-oh. You like me, you missed it. Yep. But just make sure before you come that you know how things are done. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Now, if you want to go to Boquete where you're paying $15 like the gentleman talking and see the doctor, that's great. But what happens if you have a stroke? Because remember, as you get older, your risk of all these things goes up just because you're getting older, not because of anything that you've done. Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting older. And then this is the thing, someone like me, I came to Panama to age in place, right? But again, like a lot of people, I really did not understand the system. And this is why you tell people, this guy said, are you pro Panama? Of course I'm pro Panama. I've been here 3.5 years, right? But being pro doesn't mean la 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 la, I don't know what's going on. I need to know because I have a group of people who depend on me to give them accurate information, especially because I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm a medically trained person and I know about aging and I know that I know what's coming. This is not. I've been blessed to be this age and haven't had major thing happen to me. I could be looking so good right now, and then later on you go, "Oh my gosh, you look so good! You were talking to us." Don't be surprised. That's just the way this crazy life is, right? So things that happen to you as you age, your risk of cancer goes up, your risk of dementia goes up, your risk of cardiovascular stuff goes up. Listen, I tell people the body is like a car. When it gets to a certain age, things will break down and you're going to have to replace parts. You're going to have to fix things. That's what we're looking at. The people you see who say they're 105, nothing is wrong with them, I usually go, mm-mm. This little man was exercising. Hola, Elgar, my friend. Mwah. This little guy said he was 100 years old and they showed him at the gym and we're like, oh, this is great. And he said, I've had 15 surgeries. I've beat cancer 5 times. Things happen. And as we get older, it's not a matter of if, it's when. I tell people, you do the best you can. You just try to manage the risks. And even some people will get out unscathed, I have to say, but that is not the norm. That's more like the exception. Okay? Your eyes, you're going to have cataract surgery because my ophthalmologist friend, he says, Maggie, it's not if, it's when. We're all going to get cataracts. And if that's all you have, you're blessed. You could have macular degeneration, which is like you go blind. Things happen to us. We're trying to prepare for it. Not that we say, oh, that won't happen to me. Oh, look at her. She's so healthy. Really? That's why I don't believe in going to all these screening and looking for this. I remember it was like 30 years ago. This person comes to the hospital where I was. She's like, we're doing free PET scan. Don't you want to have a PET scan to see if you have the beginning of breast cancer? I said, no, I don't want it. She said, oh, don't you want to know? No, ma'am. If I feel something, I'll follow it up. But I don't want you to tell me, oh, I see a few little cells doing something over there. In a 68-year-old body, something is happening. If it doesn't bother me, I don't bother it. Leave me alone. That's me. Now, some people are hypochondriac. They need to have blood work every 6 months. Adelante. I'm not one of those people. They did a survey of physicians and they said, if you had a condition that was terminal, how would you like to be treated? Would you want them to do everything to keep you alive? 97% of them said no. I want palliative care. I want you to keep me comfortable. Do you think they know something you don't know? All this stuff that we're throwing at ourselves as we get older, it keeps the insurance companies and the pharma and all of them in business. They know the medication is not working, but they still prescribe it to you. Yeah. Be smart. Do what you can. And if it happens to you, you have no regrets because you live your life to the fullest. Because to have lived this long is a blessing. I was just watching this little 10-year-old who is an organ donor. I can't wrap my mind around stuff like that. What did she do, this little angel? How come I'm still here? I don't know. I don't know. All right, I don't want to get another one of my soapboxes. That life is precious. You do what you can and let the rest go. You manage what you can and then let the rest go. That's all you can do. A nurse at work told me Friday that she didn't want to live into her 70s, let alone older. Well, I don't have a number because we are living longer better, right? I don't want to say 70. I just know I don't want to be in a position where I'm sitting somewhere and depend on someone to feed me, to fix me, to wipe me. I don't want that. I pray to God. I pray to God that I go like my mother did. My mother was older. My mother died, she was 86. So I have that going for me in terms of genetics, right? Because that's a big part of it. But she had really bad arthritis in her shoulders and knees. I don't have arthritis, thank God. And of course, I know certain things about how I live my life that, it was a different generation. They didn't understand that, in terms of food and sleep and prevention and healthcare and all that. But we, my brothers and I, my brother and my sisters, three of us, I remember us having that conversation. Mama was, I think she came and lived with me for a couple of after the earthquake, and then I had to go back to work. And I'm like, okay, what are we? I was like, okay, we need to have a conversation. What are we gonna do with Mama? When, not if. And then they look at me. They say, okay, sis, what are we gonna do? I'm the nurse. I'm the oldest. They deferred to me. We did not have the infighting of I'm gonna do that. No. We sat down. We said, okay, when this happened, we're gonna do this. And we divided it up, and it included time, finances, all that, traveling back and forth to visit. So my mom, we hired two caregivers to take care of her. And then the way it worked. We kind of looked at her expenses, and then it was like we went on a rotating basis. We had an account, and everybody made transfer into the account. And my brother was the one to manage all that, hiring the people, paying them, and all that. It worked beautifully. And then one day, my brother called me. I'll never forget. She said, "Mommy's gone," and I'm like, your heart just dropped. And I said, what happened? My mother had what we think was like maybe a TIA, maybe a year or two. And like I said, she was suffering with pain. So we're managing her pain, but she was feisty. Like I'm going to be. And then they told us, the two ladies who were taking care of her said she woke up one day and she said she didn't feel good. She wasn't feeling good. And then they said, oh, let's take her to the bathroom and give her a bath. They bathed her, they said. And then they laid her down to take a nap. And that was it. She never woke up. We had all the plans. What we're going to do, we didn't get to implement any of those except pay for her care. Now, how beautiful was that? She wasn't in the hospital. She didn't suffer. She just went and she was clean. When I went and I was doing her memorial, I was so grateful that she went the way she did. I prayed for her to go like that. because I was like, what if she's in the hospital? She's in the ICU. How are we going to be doing the traveling? I have a job. I have this. I have that. That's how I pray that I go. I pray that I something happens in this apartment. Now we have this thing with the sister circle, that we check on each other, in the morning. I said, I can check in at 9 o'clock saying, hello, buenos dias, I'm good. And then I slip, fall, do something, and I die here. You won't know. And everybody's like, well, you're right. That is true. Oh, yeah. And I'm perfectly okay. I just don't want to be in pain. This is the thing. If I slip and fall in the shower and I don't have a little alert button for somebody to come and check on me, the sisters are like, well, if we don't hear from you in a day, we just going to come and check on you. I said, yeah, but I could have been down for like hours. And I said, don't rush to come and check on me. Take your time. Because I don't want all this stuff. I don't want to bother anybody. I don't want to do all that. I don't. That's me, right? But anyway, I just pray I go like my mother did because yes, yes, it was nice. Hi, Miss Maggie Lacey. ¿Cómo estás? Managed to just jump on in to love these soapboxes smile. At 71, I thank God for every day, I'm sure. Love and let the rest go. Yes, ma'am, Adrian. So nicely said. And at 71, you're just getting started, sis. You already look amazing. I don't want that either, to lose my independence as I get older. I think this is the thing that we worry about the most. And of course, up here, right? Because I could be here. Like I said, I finally let the housekeeper in to clean because I'm like, I'm not moving my pop and mopping all this floor. So these are the kind of things you need to kind of train yourself to add additional help, right? We order online all the time now. We order delivery. I said, anything that can be delivered, I'm going to have it delivered to the building. Watermelon, cleaning supply. I don't want to carry all that. So we all have, like, we have a company that delivers fruits and vegetables and grain. You have a company they deliver meat. I don't eat meat. We have company, you go to Price Mart and then they deliver all your cleaning supplies, Super 99, every single business here. Food stores do deliveries. They charge you $4.99, $5.99. So what? You would have paid that for Uber. Delivery, delivery, delivery. Some places will come and pick up your laundry. I do my own laundry. But if you have big comforters, I don't want to be dragging that in the street. Have them come pick it up. So as you get older, you need to open yourself to these things to make your life a little easier. What we are working on, what I'm working on, is having I don't want to say a document, but just people lined up because the housekeepers, everybody's got housekeeper. But, I have befriended this nurse. It's like, how does it work? So if you were, let's say you went to the hospital and you needed wound care or somebody to take care of you, they have nurses. I found out they have different levels of nurses who can come and take care of you at home, right? And then they do what they call turno. Turno means a shift. So it's not like my home care company that I have where I can have somebody do a visit for 45 minutes. They don't work like that here, right? You hire the nurse, they're going to be here for 8 hours or 12 hours, okay? And then what is the going rate? How much do you pay for that 8 hours? Can you include it in your budget as your care? Plus, you have Dr. Duncan who will come visit you in your home. You have other doctors who make home visits. You sign up for one of those asistencia a domicilio to come check about you at home. That's what we want to do. Not having the heroic thing and everything thrown at you. You want to be included in the latest research project. I don't. I don't. Because I feel that at my age, at 68, it's a blessing to be this old. And I'm not looking to say I want to be kept alive no matter what until I reach 70. I'm more about the quality than the quantity. So it's very complex, right? A friend of mine sent me an article about the dementia village in the first one in Canada. And I'm like, well, they started that in the Netherlands, like in 1970s. And but you look at those places, first of all, they are not very diverse. And then you have to have money. Money that most of us don't have. So we have to find a different model that is affordable to us, right? And that's why a lot of us are out of the US because you can afford that care over there. I used to own a home care company. I know how much I used to charge people per hour. And it was the most stressful thing for families. People had to leave their job to take care of a parent with dementia. And many times that adult child kicks the bucket before the patient because the stress was too much. Listen, aging is a complex phenomenon. Everybody's saying, oh, you live to be 100, but you don't know at what cost to the family, to the loved one. Not everybody who's 100 is out running marathons. No, they're in the bed, needing total care. They're at Elga's facilities. Elga is a nurse and she's a director of nursing somewhere. I don't know if she's still working. Are you retired, Elga? I'm retired. We used to be in school together. But anyway, thank you for the like, Auntie. I appreciate that. Now I understand now, Maggie, from you, it was for her to get medical treatment. Mi abuela lived to be 101. Wonderful. Uh, all right. The older generations kept a lot to themselves when I was growing up. My grandma lived with us. So it was like she had six children, but my mother was Erigida, I guess. She kind of chose her to be her caregiver. So on Sundays, everybody came to my house, all the grandkids, and to see grandma. So I was being a caregiver even then. I absolutely adore my grandmother. She was an angel. So, and that's why I think my love of old people started. And that's why I'm into gerontology. I love old people. I love to sit when I did home care. I love to go to see a little feisty 96-year-old who was living alone and telling me off. And I remember, I remember when I was a brand new nurse, I went to see this little Southern lady. She was like, I think she was 90. She was living by herself. And then I went to see her and she had two strips of bacon. She had grits. She had this. And I was like, oh, Mrs. So and so, you shouldn't be eating bacon. It's not good for your heart. Girl, that little lady told me off. She put a little hand on her hip. She said, child, I live to be this old and I've been eating my bacon and you're going to come to my house. Oh, I'm like, oh, yes. Okay, man. So, so I learned, leave him alone. If she lived to be 90 eating her bacon, I have no business telling her what to eat. Oh my God, she just told me off, and I just loved her from that moment on. She just didn't come to my house and tell me what to do. Oh, I miss my patients. I do. Anyway, yes. All right, I'm really gonna have to go off now, you guys. It's been 2 hours. Oh, 6:11 from 4 o'clock. Okay. I think YouTube is gonna say that's enough. Any other burning questions, you guys? We're trying to age in place here, and it is, yes, they do. And it is such an important thing. So if you're young, you come to Panama, welcome to Panama. Enjoy Panama and have fun, 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 fun. But for the rest of us who are older, it's business. It's serious business that we have to plan for. All right. All right, guys. I will see you next week. I didn't think we were going to be here that long because I think, was it Maria who said, talk about the neighborhoods? And then we got into all kinds of questions. Thank you, Taisha, for watching. Elga. All right, guys. I'll see you next week. Oh, tomorrow they have two good soccer games. Cape Verde. Yeah, but anyway, they played well. I just love the game. I don't care who wins. Mexico, England. That's gonna be good. They were getting physical yesterday. These guys, the hormones were kicking. Testosterone was on display. Woo. All right. Thank you guys. Au revoir. See you next Saturday. Bye. Bye, 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 bye. All right. Bye, guys.